This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 165 of Horsemanship Radio, brought to you by Finishline Fencing, the original and only warranted horse fence of its kind. Horsemanship Radio is a part of the family of the Horse Radio Network, and today we have two women devoted to natural ways to keep your horses healthy. This is Debbie Laux, and you're listening to the Horsemanship Radio. Thanks for joining us. The Horsemanship Radio airs on the 1st and the 15th of the month, and I have my producer, Jen, with me today. Hi, Jen.
Greetings, Debbie. How's it going?
Good. Actually, I'm loving summer. Everything, we're getting through it. Next week, as we record this, is one of my favorite weeks. It's the Gentling Wild Horse course we've been talking about.
Yes.
Oh, my
now,
gosh.
is this the third year you've done this?
Oh, no. I think we've done maybe it's fourth.
Fourth?
I think it's fourth. Yeah. Or maybe this is the fifth. I have to think about it, but I think it's fourth. And we have got some horses. This is the cool part too. This year, there's a herd up in Tehachapi. Doesn't that sound Indian? In California. In Tehachapi, they have this old herd. It's about 100 years old, and it's feral. And they think that they were probably Morgans released from this old ranch that's no longer around anymore. But so they do all look kind of similar and all look kind of Morganish, but they are survivors because this is harsh land where they are, cold and hot and all those things too. But they're absolutely beautiful. And one thing about them is that they come from a really quiet demeanor, and they see people, so they're not really afraid of people, but they're not around people either. So they really are quite feral.
So the human beings are just part of the scenery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like a bunny rabbit or something out there, right? You know, they like whatever. But horses they're not usually picked up by people too. So this will be a little bit. They do kind of take care of the herd if one is really, they'll doctor if they can get one, cordoned off or something. But really, they have no human interaction whatsoever. So the ones we will get will be very feral, but we ask them to get, the kind of the quieter ones, the ones that roll with it a little bit more. But we'll see what we get. I don't know. We're going to get about 5 or 6 from that herd. And then we have a couple of others just with some remedial issues that are a little bit, we've got a Hackney pony, Jen.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It'll be fun. And we've got a mare that's, about a 7-year-old mare, I think, that's got some issues, some remedial things that need to be taken care of because these are up for adoption. Everything will be up for adoption, and we want to make it easier on the owner. And so we're going to be doing a lot of social media sharing, and so people can go to the Facebook, Monty Roberts Facebook and everything, and see what our Gentling Wild Horse course. And of course, we're filming it too, so there'll be uni lessons that come out of that, and hopefully, not too many life lessons. What have we done?
Yeah.
No, it's always really fun.
So I'm going to be excited to hear how the Hackney pony comes through. I had a light bulb moment the other day with PT Scooter, Glenn's Hackney pony.
Did you? Yeah.
Uh-huh. I don't remember if it was the last episode before, recently when we were chit-chatting, talking about horses being into pressure. I had mentioned that. Yeah,
Thigmotaxis.
Yeah. Well, Scooter is a little bit of a challenge to train.
Okay.
He's the funniest pony in the world.
He's got a sense of humor, yeah.
He's also got a lot of ponytude, and that's a Hackney trait. Have a ponytude.
Yeah.
And one of his ponytude traits is anytime there's pressure on his halter, he goes the opposite. So if you're walking him on a lead rope and you stop and he comes to the end of the lead rope, the instant he gets to the end of the lead rope, he pulls harder.
Right.
If you try to turn, he pulls harder. When he pulls back on it, not quite so much, but anytime it's on his nose, he pulls harder. And we assumed that this is partly because before we got him, he was a rescue pony. For those who aren't familiar with PT Scooter, he was a rescue pony. He was tethered like a dog in the front yard with a dog chain, and there was no food or water available while he was tethered. Zero food or water for extended periods of time. He was starved.
Yeah.
So he learned that I just have to pull a little harder to survive. But I got inside Scooter's head and I said, okay, rather than allowing pressure to happen, just don't let pressure happen. Well, how do I steer my pony if there's no pressure, right? So just before the pressure would happen, I would change the game.
Yeah, your rules.
My rules. I would walk in front of him. I would go behind him and ask him to give his hindquarters. In other words, come towards me, but without any pressure on the lead rope, just by going towards his hindquarters. And he's a curious and playful little fella. So he would go, oh, what are you doing back there? Let's change the game. And I've been trying to be really consistent. It's very interesting because he is pretty reliably starting to go, well, where are you? I need to be close to you because I don't know what game you're going to play. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
How are we doing this? And he's not going, okay, you're going to pull on the lead rope so we can play the tug of war game. It's very interesting.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Good job on the psychology.
Yeah. And I'm not using pressure on his body. Like if I need him to move his body, like you're standing on the cross ties or something. Because if you push on him, he just leans. Just leans
do you know that we have a name for that? We made it up, I think, but it's called spatial thigmotaxis. And you literally, deer don't herd so well, but cattle and horses do tend to herd. Yeah. Except for the feral one that gets, crazy or something, but you can literally, and most horsemen will know this, but you've taken it to a new level. You could literally move a horse around by spatial thigmotaxis because of your body language, right? It's just like a herd mare.
Yes,
lead mare.
That's what I'm using. Yay!
That's what you're doing.
Yes, I'm doing. So instead of touching him, I put my hand near him. And if nothing happens, I take my hand near him and I move it quickly.
Or you put your ears back.
Or
you put your ears back.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because he doesn't want to move. Then I'll just brush my hand past him really quick and just brush him. It's like, oh, I've got you. I'm out of the way. No problem.
Exactly.
It's very interesting.
We try too hard sometimes. We really do.
Yes. Instead of pushing and prodding and bullying, just wave your arm that way. And if you're consistent and let them know that was the right answer, it's like, yeah, I got that. I can move. No problem.
Yeah. And the dually halter works, if somebody's in the beginning stages of that, where the horse really doesn't understand, you want to make it black and white, that dually halter is on a twist system. So that's just like how do I come off that pressure? That's essentially what you're saying is she's putting pressure on me. And then I learn to come off that pressure, or we use the top pole, in some cases, the trained off pressure top pole to signal to them what we want. But by the time they've got it, and they get it, they're smart enough, they get it. And once they've got it, like, oh, I see what you're asking me now. And so that's when you get into the spatial thigmotaxis. So, everybody knows that when a horse stands on your foot, the last thing you want to do is try to push the horse off your foot because they lean into you and they're just harder on your foot. So the thing you want to do is bring their head to you, right? And so they come off of it in a turn, or if you could do a spatial thigmotaxis at that point, great. But usually when they're standing on your foot, you're not thinking that way. You want to pull the halter towards you, get them off your foot. So if you value your foot. So good job. I think that's wonderful.
That's so cool. Well, speaking of people reminding people of things, we want to remind everybody about our title sponsor, Finishline Fencing. They make a unique and fabulous product that can help your horses stay contained safely, effectively, and for a very reasonable price. So let's hear from them before we get to our first guest.
Well, I'm here with Kim and Lisa. I'm really excited to talk to them a little bit about Finishline fencing. You are a little different than things that I'd been seeing out there, and I'm always trying to problem solve with different areas. We have 80 acres here on the farm. So I'm hoping you can tell me a little bit about Finishline fencing.
Hi, Debbie. Yes, thank you so much for having us. Finishline itself has actually been out for over 30 years now, and you've probably seen it all over the place, but you just never realized it was Finishline. So it's kind of like the next generation of fencing.
One of the best things I think Finishline has to offer people is that when they're getting, having a farm is just a lot of work, as we all know. And this type of fencing is absolutely zero maintenance. So basically what they do, it's lightweight. You can install it yourself very quickly. It works with any type of posts. So it's very simple and can work in a lot of different situations. But the best thing about it is once you install it, you really never have to retension the material. So it's pretty much your one and done.
And it can handle any type of environment. It can handle the sun and the UV rays that's UV inhibited throughout. Or if you are up in the freezing cold at the top of a mountain, it can handle all of that snow and have no effect on the finish line itself.
Yeah, I don't know of another kind of fencing that can do that. Well, I have a lot of friends who have acreage that they really scratch their heads when it comes to have to put in fencing. And it sounds like this actually is a solve.
So you can actually check out our website. It is finishlinefence.com. Our Facebook page is Finishline Fence. Or give us a call. Our number is 877-625-6100.
Monique and her twin sister Marie loved horses as a child and dreamt of having horses one day. When their families relocated to the West Coast at 13 years old, they purchased a home with enough property to have horses and fulfill their dreams. A saddle was not in the budget, so she rode bareback, exploring the endless miles of trails with her sister and neighborhood friends. When she was in her early 30s, she was introduced to team penning and developed a new horse passion, working cows. She bought her first truck and horse trailer and hit the road riding in team penning events. Eventually, she studied California-style Vaquero riding, too, progressing through the various levels, learning dressage in a Western saddle to enhance cow working by the horse, working in balance in arcs to be more efficient and effective, and influencing the horse's body position and the cow's. In time, Monique became passionate about a more natural lifestyle for her horses, and she studied equine nutrition and the horse's hoof. During this phase in her life, she became passionate about slow feeding, which resulted in a 4-year experimental journey of creating a slow feeder that met her needs. We welcomed her sharing and her story to Horsemanship Radio. Well, welcome, Monique Warren, founder of Hay Pillow. And I wanted to have you on today, Monique. How are you?
I am fantastic.
I'm really excited to hear more about your story. But before we go there, when I hear somebody's story about inventing something, I want to know they're really a horse girl. And I want to hear your background and everything. And yeah, we heard your bio, but I really want to hear about you and why it was so important to you to do something really kind for your horse.
So when I became aware of slow feeders, I ordered them online and I started using them, and none of them really met my needs. I wanted something that was natural and that I could place in multiple locations to keep my horses moving. And so I embarked on a 4-year journey using slow feeders that I could purchase and building hard-sided slow feeders that I could use.
Now you go back into the world of California-style Vaquero horsemanship. I think that's fascinating, and I know that you moved out west when you were like 13. We read that in your intro, but why California-style Vaquero? I mean, that's pretty wild stuff.
But it's not really wild. I just, I was educated myself, and I really enjoyed working cattle. And there was going to be a local clinic with Mike Bridges called Seeking Refinement. And so I'm always wanting to learn more and explore more. So I attended the clinic and was completely convinced that this would be a very educational journey for myself and my horses, and in order to be able to allow them to be balanced and prepared for turns on cattle. And so it just became just another passion to follow. And I think that throughout our equine, explorations, we keep finding things to learn more about.
And we also have on the phone with us too, Kirsty Bedwell. And Kirsty, I understand, did you go kind of through this same curvature trying to figure out how to help your horse feed more, I would say probably more consistently? Or was this something where you had a colic situation and you had to change things desperately?
I did, yeah. So I actually have 2 little miniature horses, and I was trying to find something that was going to help slow feed them because they're so prone to being overweight. And, I take my little miniature horses' diet so seriously because I want them, to last well into their 30s. And having them from foals, I saw that as a great opportunity to really start early and make sure that they, had the forage that they needed and was able to feed it properly. So I was really happy to find the hay pillow. And another thing I think that really sparked my interest was how little waste of hay it was able to give me. So I wasn't wasting money on my hay because I had, at the time I was working at a barn where we just fed hay loose on the ground. And I saw so much wasted money laying on the ground that, gets peed on or horses trampled and they don't want to eat it. So that was a huge, huge factor to me who was buying my own hay for my horses.
Yeah, that's true, huh? Even with minis, they can still trample, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They like to make a mess.
So why didn't you just buy the old, $7 little grid net thing? Why wasn't that good enough?
Yeah, I just really wanted something that gave the overall benefits for their health. And I really felt like the hay pillow, allowing them to eat in the natural grazing position, something that they can move around. I mean, my 2, they take them out in the paddocks and they flip them all over the place. So even though they're out on the dry lot, they're still getting to walk around a lot more. And, that waste reduction was huge as well.
Okay. All right. So you saw them as a toy too, right? They got to play a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah. Yeah.
So these things are all across the United States then. Is that right, Monique?
They're all over the world.
Oh my gosh.
They're in zoos in Dubai, Canada. I can't even list all the countries that I've shipped to because it's so unique. They're not available, they're not manufactured or available in other countries. So, yes, it's pretty exciting shipping internationally and seeing all these countries where they're headed. And when I was prototyping, if I've ever prototyped a change that I'm considering making for the better, I'll prototype them in Switzerland, Canada, and California to make sure that it can accommodate all the weather variances.
Right. That's true. So this canvas has to hold up and all that too. So what do you find? Are owners the world over as concerned as we are in the U.S. with this natural feeding?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah. I think, as before the internet and then we just, we tended to rely on, and rightfully so, our vets. But as we have more information available, I think most of us are striving to achieve the most beneficial lifestyle and feeding practices for our horses. So absolutely, that is it is worldwide, and I think that most of us horse lovers will always continue to educate ourselves and see what we can do to ensure that our horses are happy and healthy.
So that's so cool. It must feel really good to know that, you towed the line, you came up with something, and now people, horse lovers all over the world, actually get to benefit from that. What was wrong with, like, Jen, my producer that's on, she can make a slow feeder out of strapping tape, right? You can, it's a pretty simple concept, but you took 4 years to come up with this. So what makes yours better than that? Better than a strapping tape hay pillow?
Well, they're extremely durable. And again, we have the variety of mesh sizes.
Is the variety of mesh sizes, is that for the size of horse now, or the slowness of which they can pull that hay through?
we're referring to the opening and the netting.
Right. All right.
So we offer 4 different mesh sizes, depending on how adept or patient the individual is. And to be honest, when I first came up with this idea, I purchased all kinds of fabrics and materials, and I cut out my very first hay pillow, and I sat down at my little Singer sewing machine.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just going to make one, but I couldn't because it wasn't heavy duty enough.
Yeah.
So I had to find a prototype sewer, and then I embarked from there. But there were many versions before we got to where we are today.
Yeah, I'm sure. But it's made here now. It's made in the USA. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a huge made in the USA.
Oh, good girl. That's nice. If we can do it, we like supporting that too, to buy things made here if we can, but it's so hard to do. Maybe COVID will make that easier, but I'm still kind of stuck on. So I know that it's natural. If we look at horses out on the steppes of Mongolia or whatever, they're eating with their head down. And we know from our nutritionists that is the best way for horses to eat, is from the ground, and the whole neck and digestive system are all designed for that. But if your horse is wearing shoes and you've got this netting on a pillow, what do you do with that?
Yeah, we do have hanging hay pillows available on our website for shod horses, and we also have nets, a very high quality net. So we have options for both shod and barefoot horses. And a lot of information on our website about mounting and hanging options, and choosing a mesh size. And we have a plethora of information. We have over 500 pages on our website.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a good resource. Okay. And Kirsty, tell me why this one is doing better. How long have you had your hay pillow?
So my 2 miniature hay pillows, the ground ones, I've had them for 3 years now, and they've held up. I mean, my horses haven't put a single rip in them, and those boys are rough. And then I also have one of the hanging hay pillows for my shod horse, which that one I've had a few months, and that's worked out very well too in his stall for him.
Okay. And why did you choose from the beginning? You didn't know Monique. Now, I know now you're not best friends or anything. So why did you choose that one? There's so many out there to choose from, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just think it really hit all the marks. I honestly don't have really a bad thing to say about it, because it just kind of hit all the marks that I was looking for. And being a horse professional, I just, I want to give my horses the best quality, everything that I can.
Yeah. Are you, when you say horse professional now, are you a trainer?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah?
I teach at a barn. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you teach at a barn. Okay, good. Yeah. I'm glad you got that in. What barn? Put it in here.
Yeah. It's called Rising Star Equestrian Center in New Hope, Pennsylvania.
Wonderful. Good. Now people can go check out your hay pillow, and see if they like it, and your minis too. What are your minis' names?
Yeah. Thank you. They are Jasper and Wallace, and they have their own Instagram account.
They do? How lovely.
They do, yeah.
I love it. Well, I love talking to horse girls who have figured out not only, trainers, and good for you, Kirsty. I'm glad you're out there working it. Is it okay in the COVID thing? How are you guys holding up?
Thank God we made it. Our barn, we finally have been able to open up the past couple weeks, and all of our students have been coming back, and so many new students who are eager to get outdoors and do something. So we're hanging in there.
Good. Oh, good. We need you. We need that hope. That's good. And Monique, how is your area? You guys still kind of locked down? Because we're in Southern California, aren't we?
Yes, I'm in Southern California, and yes, it's dicey. It will rise and fall as far as the cases go, but like everyone else, we just have to do the best we can with what we've got.
That's true.
And so thank goodness my business is online, so it hasn't affected my ability to work. So I'm very grateful for that. But I do pray for all of those small businesses out there that are suffering from the pandemic financially, and just hope that they can hold out until things open up more, because I certainly can relate as far as having a small business here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, are you done researching the hay pillow? Is it perfect, or are you always innovating?
I am always innovating.
Really?
Every time I make another change, or our netting is a 5th generation.
Wow.
So I developed the netting, the twine, the type of material it's made from. And then when I think I'm finished, I'm always looking for ways to improve.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'll ever be finished, but it's always my goal to make it the most durable, effective product possible. And so I'm always very open-minded about any improvement that I could potentially make.
Well, that's good. That's a good way to be. I'm kind of fascinated by the dental part of it. I hadn't thought about that until recently, that some slow feeders can be problematic for the horse's teeth. And so I think yours avoids that, but I don't know that well. How much is dental a consideration in a slow feeder?
Well, it should be a huge consideration. And I have to say that, even the hard-sided feeders that either use metal grates or large drilled plastic holes, they work well for a lot of people. But you do have there is always a potential that there could be some damage to the teeth. And so with netting, it conforms to the hay and the ends can stick up through it. Yeah. So especially the anxious horses about eating aren't feeling like they have to scrape their teeth across it to extract hay out of it.
Right. No, that it does make sense. It's just one of those things that, it's sort of a peeling of an onion for me with the slow feeders. Is I've sort of learned over the years what I don't like. And so it's kind of fun to find one that did feel like it had a lot of those problems taken care of. So congratulations. That's great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it was fun having you on, and Kirsty too. Thank you. We'll follow your minis on Instagram. And I love their long names for such a small horse. And Monique, congratulations on, becoming an entrepreneur and sticking to your guns and pillows. And I appreciate you coming on Horsemanship Radio.
A couple of years ago, I don't know how long ago it was now, but we had you on a number of our shows talking about the Equus Online University, which had just come out.
It has developed. It's become better with the search engine in it, and it's become better with the forum, because we have such an amazing, a lot of those forums, people get on there and go, oh, no, you're not. Yes, you are. No, you're not.
Yeah, usually it ends up with the whiners on forums.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's not. What I see is a mentoring. Actually, it's almost the polar opposite, because we do give these rosettes out for people who've completed so many lessons. And once the rosettes started, now we have we're up to 5 rosettes for somebody who's watched every lesson. And you have those rosettes by your forum personality in your profile. And so you can really see who's watched all these things. So it gives them credibility when they come in and say, hey, have you watched this lesson? So people come on there and they're using it as a training tool, frankly, and they get on there. And I'm not bragging on the university as the greatest training tool, which I think it is, but it's also a great place for people to be mentored as they begin their journey with horses. It really is cool. So when they watch the lessons, and they can watch them over and over again as many times as they want, they get the lesson notes, they get audio, they get visual, and then they've got the forum to kick around too. Plus we've got now, since 2004, every week, without fail, we put up a Q&A from Monty himself. He chose the question, he answered it, and we put it in a database. And that's actually free for everybody to search and get to. It's open on our Equus Online University. In other words, it's a non-subscriber open source forum too. Not forum, but a Q&A base. The forum is not. You're behind a subscriber wall for the forum, just so we know who's talking. But it is it's been an incredible experience actually to put these together with Stefan Peters and Will Simpson. You know who I'm talking about. These guys have won everything in their worlds, and Charlotte Bradals, and if I get started, Richard Winters, and so many guest lecturers that are on there too. So some people ask, why is it called university? Well, that's what a university is. It's not just one opinion. It's not just one deliverer. You know, and I think that's the difference between everybody is putting out a YouTube these days, and they're free. So people ask us sometimes, why do you charge like up to $10 a month? And well, it's expensive to make the university. Everybody knows quality is not cheap, but it's really our mission statement. And I know that sounds a bit trite, but it's true. When you've worked at it for 5 years, just to get all that quantified and on there, there are just almost no subjects we haven't covered at this point. But Dad and I were looking at the list, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to be making videos well into my 90s." And I went, "Yes." So promise and sign here. So we do have a lot of subjects left to go, and a lot of people we want to still get on there. What do you think of it, Glenn?
Well, I think one of the things about training horses, same as training anything really, is that you're going through stages, and you're always coming up to a new problem to solve or a new issue to deal with. And what I like about the university now that you have so much content on there is that whatever issue you're running into, there's going to be something on there to help you. So not many people are going to go on there and watch all the videos, because there's just so many of them. What you're going to want to do is go on there, and you're going to want to watch the videos that relate to the situation you're in currently with that particular horse. And that's what I like about it, is it has so much content now that whatever you're dealing with, you're probably going to find an answer somewhere, somehow. And if not, you can go to the forum.
Yeah.
So,
that's true. Yeah,
that's what I really like about it, is wherever you're at now is where you can find that situation. Plus, YouTube is so full of crap now. And I'm not saying that every video on there is crap, but we all know what we're talking about. Yeah. There are some that are. And, one of the things that I really like about this is, you can trust it. That what you're seeing is something you can trust. I've tried doing repairs on appliances and things off of YouTube videos, and some of them are good, some are not so good. And one of the things I couldn't get back together again. So it was, that
at least you didn't hurt yourself. That's
right.
Good.
So that's what I really like about it. And for that, yes, it costs a few pennies to do it, but it's worth it.
Nice.
It's worth it to do it right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And it is tried and true. Everything on there is so tried and true. If not, they'd be throwing tomatoes at us in the forum. But it really does work. And we are so happy that so many people have been interested enough at least to go there, and I should plug in the website right now is www.montyrobertsuniversity.com, because people can get a free day pass on there and go see what we're talking about, and check out that search engine too. You can put in the weird little keywords and you find all kinds of crazy stuff. It really is cool, and it breaks it down by not just the lessons first, then it goes into the Q&A database, and then it goes into the forum. So you can actually pick and choose where you pick up those keywords from too. So it's great. And then you also have little challenge questions, which I love, the little tests at the end. There's always 4 questions at the end of your lesson to make sure that, you were watching. And if you get it wrong, it just says, want to try again? And so by process of elimination, you get it right. And then it moves you on. And that's how you get your rosettes, that you've accomplished that lesson and that you get to move on. But what you just said is so important, because when we were setting this idea up, nothing really existed like it. We didn't want it to be first you have to do 1, and then you have to do number 2, and then you have to do number 3, and like it was some sort of programmed process.
Yeah, because that never works.
It doesn't. Because we wanted people who were amazing trainers to jump in there and go, this is what what does Monty say about this? Or what does this trainer say about that? And they could be at a world-class level, or it could be a very beginner saying, where do I start first? And you can just go down the lessons if you want. But, it's like you said, if all of a sudden you have a horse that won't load, and you didn't have one last week that didn't load, you go to the loading lessons, right, and it's a whole series on it.
And it's MontyRobertsUniversity.com?
That's it. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Juliet Getty, PhD, is an independent equine nutritionist with a wide U.S. and international following. Her research-based approach optimizes equine health by aligning physiology and instincts with correct feeding and nutrition practices. Dr. Getty's goal is to empower the horse person with the knowledge to provide the best nutrition for his or her horse's needs. Dr. Getty is the author of a comprehensive resource, Feed Your Horse Like a Horse, I love that, as well as 7 topic-centered Spotlight on Equine Nutrition series of booklets. She also offers an informative e-newsletter, Forage for Thought. Her website, GettyEquineNutrition.com, provides a world of useful information for the horse person. Well, welcome, Juliet Getty, and welcome back. I'm so glad to have you on again. It's always like I lean into your subjects every time you pop into my inbox and say, I've got a new one. So
you're so kind. Thank you, Debbie. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. And you're in Texas today, right?
And every day.
Okay, every day during this season. Yeah, and
I'm not traveling. No, staying put for a while.
That's us too. And I think probably everybody hearing this when it posts anyway is coming to the same thing. So we wanted to hear a little bit about what you were mentioning about immune systems. And my ears perked up on that one too, because I'm a big believer in immune systems and proactively staying healthy. You know, I'm not a big take medicines kind of person. I'd much rather talk about how we figure out what our systems are good with. So tell us a little bit about what you're recommending to your clients right now for their horses' immunes.
Well, the reason this subject came to mind is because I just recently vaccinated my horse for West Nile virus. And I was trying to decide whether or not to do it. It's not, 100% foolproof. But horses are outside all the time, and so they are exposed to mosquitoes more than we are. Of course, West Nile can affect us too. It's a mosquito-borne infection, as are other viruses, like the encephalitis viruses. And horses can develop herpes virus as well, which lives in their systems quite a bit throughout their lifetime and kind of shows up as a stress response sometimes. So in other words, the immune system has to be healthy to counteract the viruses that are around us everywhere and around our horses. And so the goal then is to try to reduce their likelihood of getting sick. I mean, that's the bottom line. And there's a lot of ways to do this. One of the most basic ways is to watch your horse's stress level, because stress suppresses the immune function. If you've ever been very stressed, you might have found that you got a cold. And that's because you're more likely to develop an infection when you're stressed. And the same is true for horses. And I know I mention this every time we talk, but the reason I do is because it's just so foundational to their overall health. And that is that horses are most stressed when they don't have something to graze on at all times. So it's very important to feed your horse like a horse, make sure they have access to forage, whether it be hay or pasture or a combination of both, available 24/7, because that triggers a stress response that can suppress their immune function. And of course, it has other aspects too. But today's topic is that. So once we get that out of the way, then we can talk about diet.
Okay.
So,
stress, that's a great subject, though, just for one more, put a period on it, too. A lot of people think of stress as, maybe taking their horse to competitions, and there can be some cross, contamination there, too, where you can pick up stuff from other horses, and everybody's usually pretty careful about that. But stress kind of happens funny in a horse's behavior with things that people don't even think of sometimes. Like we were just doing a loading demonstration for some people, and even the direction in which the trailer was facing made a difference in the stress level of the horse. Yeah, it's just funny little things that we've got to think more like a horse. You feed your horses like a horse, and we try to think like a horse. So putting the direction of the trailer facing his home and loading so that he's walking towards his stall, in that direction anyway, is less stressful, even if he's not a great loader, So all those little moments, help them build their immune system or keep their immune system healthy or build, any confidence building. So I'll put that little tip in there, little caveat. Now you do it from the inside.
Okay. Well, as you brought up a very good point. Horses are creatures of routine, and anytime you disrupt that routine, then it's going to make them, notice. And if they feel uncomfortable, then it will start a stress response. So, but from the diet perspective, just some basics here, and then we'll go into some nutraceuticals that you can consider adding, perhaps during this time, or if your horse is experiencing any kind of health issues, or you're afraid of the horse developing any problems, like in an unfamiliar environment, for example, like during traveling. But on a basic level, one of the things that you want to make sure is that the horse gets sufficient omega-3s. And we've talked about fat and how there are 2 essential fatty acids, and one is an omega-3, one's an omega-6, and they need to be in balance. And so make sure that the horse is getting a source of omega-3s. And usually that would be chia seeds or flax seeds. Certainly if your horse is fortunate enough to be on fresh living pasture grasses, those are high in omega-3s also. Omega-3s are involved in a lot of different areas of the body, but in particular, they're involved in protecting the horse's inflammatory response, which is involved in the immune system. And then the other thing is that you want to make sure that your horse is getting good quality protein. And so if your horse is only getting one source of protein, let's say just grass hay, that's not high enough in quality to provide a sufficient number or variety of amino acids from which to build body proteins. And antibodies, which are the body's way of protecting against antigens from allergies and other infections, antibodies are proteins. And in order for the horse to build those antibodies or produce them, he has to have sufficient amino acids to do that. And the only way to accomplish that is to provide a variety of protein sources. So not just grass hay, but maybe add some alfalfa hay to the mix. Or if you're feeding chia seeds or flax, that adds some protein. Or my personal favorite is hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are extremely high in protein quality, even better than soy. And I think I've mentioned I don't particularly like soy. So I go with hemp seeds. So protein quality. And then the other thing that I want to make people aware of is to avoid sugar and to avoid too much starch. Starch gets digested down to glucose, and of course, sugar provides glucose. And what that does is it increases insulin. And anytime insulin is elevated, it stimulates the formation of very specific inflammatory molecules called cytokines. And there are many of them, different types of interleukins, for example, or inflammatory cytokines that can travel to all the tissues of the body and cause inflammation and damage, whether it be the joints or the hooves or the brain. And so sugar is very inflammatory. Avoid feeding sweet feeds and don't overfeed starch, or not even at all. Most horses really don't need any starch. So those are 3 basics. And then we can look at vitamins and other nutraceuticals.
Well, I've been hearing about these cytokine storms a lot now. Right?
Yes, that's true. That has been in the news lately, hasn't it?
Yeah. So you perked my ears up at that one too. And that is the body's, if I understand it right, the body's overreaction to an immunity
need.
Yeah.
It is an overreaction, which is not a good thing. And in terms of feeding things that stimulate it, insulin will stimulate cytokines.
Okay.
And what stimulates insulin? Well, sugar and starch stimulates insulin. Stress stimulates insulin because stress causes the release of cortisol, which causes insulin to rise. And conditions, metabolic conditions, such as insulin resistance or even equine Cushing's disease, are characterized by elevated insulin levels, which causes this cytokine release and inflammation.
So if you don't want to feed a lot of sweet feed and you've got a hard keeper, do you just increase volume? Tell us what you recommend.
If you have a hard keeper, don't add oats to the diet. No, that's not the way to do it. If you have a hard keeper, basically you want to make sure the protein quality is good and add more fat to the diet. And hemp seeds I particularly like because it covers both bases. It's high in fat and it also is high in quality protein. But you could also add various oils. Again, with oils, choose one that's high in omega-3s and stay away from soybean oil, corn oil, rice bran oil, wheat germ oil. All of those are very, very high in omega-6s, which increase inflammation. You see.
Okay. So, is there a certain age where a horse may start losing some weight just because through age? And what do you have to be careful about that? Are the oils fine for an older horse too? They can metabolize that?
Sure. Yes. Some older horses don't tolerate high levels of protein because their kidneys or liver may not be functioning as well. And if you're concerned about that, a blood test can easily tell you how well your horse is doing and whether or not he can tolerate more protein. But fat is very well tolerated. So that's always easy to add.
Great.
So, and then, you've heard of the term antioxidants. And antioxidants, what they do is they neutralize very volatile, damaging molecules called free radicals. And so whenever there's inflammation, whether it be from stress or too much sugar or starch, or too many omega-6s, all of those things and others, whenever there's too much inflammation, it causes a higher production of free radicals. And these damaging molecules can travel anywhere in the body and destroy the cell membranes around any particular cell of any particular tissue. So the way to neutralize them or to stop them in their tracks is to provide an antioxidant. And the two of the most common antioxidants are vitamins E and C. And vitamin E is particularly helpful. We're now finding that horses do need more vitamin E than we have been giving them. And so I like to add some vitamin E to the diet. Usually a horse at maintenance will do well on about 1,000 IUs of vitamin E, as long as it's a natural vitamin E. Synthetic vitamin E is not as active, and so you'd have to feed about a third again as much to get 1,000 IUs. Vitamin C, however, the horse can produce, but if the horse has some stressors like the production of a lot of histamines, say he has allergies or respiratory allergies or insect allergies, vitamin C is very useful that way too. And I'll often add anywhere from 300 to 500 milligrams of vitamin C. For older horses, I might even add more. But vitamin C is also useful in protecting the immune response, specifically by neutralizing these damaging free radicals.
Yeah. And you can't overdo vitamin C, can you, if you're being really careful, but you might be able to overdo the E. Am I right?
Actually, it's the opposite.
Oh, opposite. Okay. Whoops.
The vitamin E really isn't toxic. It's stored in the liver, and we have not seen any toxicity problems like we have with other fat-soluble vitamins, such as vitamins A and D and K. Okay. We can overdose on those, but not so much with vitamin E. Vitamin C, well, you're really you're right there. You really can't overdose technically because most of what's not utilized is excreted in the urine. Yeah. But if the horse has too much and is prone toward any kidney issues, we can possibly see some bladder stones develop in some horses that are sensitive to that. It can also lead to diarrhea. Yeah. And finally, I should say that whenever you do supplement vitamin C, the horse's body becomes accustomed to that level. So if you were to stop, it should always be gradually, never just stop cold turkey. So you wean your horse off of it. Yes.
Right. Yes. Good tip. Are there any, since we opened with West Nile and our horse's system, are there any supplements that you ever have known to give that might dissuade an insect? Flies would be wonderful, but at least
you mean as a repellent?
Yeah, like an interior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Garlic, or something.
Well, first of all, garlic is toxic to horses.
Yeah, that's true.
I say that at least once a week.
That's true. I was trying to think of something to hang around their neck, inside though, is there anything that might just keep insects away?
Well, not that I've had a lot of success with. I have had some success with vitamin B1, which is thiamine, which does seem to have some repelling aspect to it. And there's some research on that. There's no research on apple cider vinegar, and yet anecdotally, I have come across some cases where it seems to be effective.
Oh, that's interesting.
So insects are a real problem, and there really isn't a whole lot we can do to keep them away. I mean, if you want to rub garlic on your horse's legs, that's fine, but don't. If you don't mind the smell. Yeah. But I wouldn't feed raw garlic to a horse. No. Over time, it can damage the red blood cells. But horses are exposed to West Nile, and we are exposed to West Nile too. But not all horses and not all people develop it, and the reason is because the immune system has counteracted the virus. The same is true for the herpes virus. And so by adding a few other things during this season, I think would be beneficial. And one of my favorite, well, actually I have two favorites, but the first favorite is CBD. And CBD, I'm sure you've heard of CBD. It's found in industrial hemp. Yep. And it targets one of two endocannabinoid systems in the body. And one of those systems is found in the gastrointestinal tract. And more than half, maybe upwards of 60% of the immune function is in the gut. And so by providing CBD to your horse, you are boosting his ability to have a healthy inflammatory response during any type of stress or exposure to infections. Mm-hmm. And so I highly recommend that. Of course, you're in California, and we're having quite a time not being able to ship to California.
Is that right?
Unfortunately.
They're restricting it, or there's something about the travel?
Well, no, it has to do with the fact that CBD or any hemp product is not considered legal for livestock. Mm-hmm. And horses are still characterized as livestock.
Oh, I see.
And to me, that's a incorrect classification. I think they're more companion animals. We don't eat horses in this country.
Exactly.
And so they really shouldn't be in the same class as cows and sheep and goats and,
Sure.
animals that are produced for food or milk or, other consumables.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, the Department of Agriculture in California is prohibiting the sale of CBD. And that's unfortunate.
Sorry.
But
Yeah, I'm
hopefully
sorry to
that'll
hear
change.
that. Yeah, I hope it does too, because I think they're pretty liberal with the human consumption on it from what I'm seeing growing around here. Anyway.
They're buying it for themselves and they give it to their horses, which I don't have a problem with.
Okay,
So.
there we go. Problem solved. Okay. And what about
but-
mushrooms? I know that's one of those things.
But as a business owner, I am not permitted to ship it to California, and I do offer CBD on my website, so I'm able to do that.
We're going to talk about that website too, because I know you're a wealth too. But there were two other things that I wanted to ask you about: is mushrooms and colostrum too.
Yes, and that's second one. Colostrum is my second favorite.
Okay.
And colostrum, I have an article on. Well, I have articles on colostrum and CBD on my website. And colostrum is just one of the most fabulous superfoods out there. Mm-hmm. It promotes a balanced immunity. It modulates the immune system through its high levels of immunoglobulins, which are immune molecules that help protect against leaky gut syndrome. And leaky gut syndrome is something that we don't talk about much with horses. You see it more with people, but there is some work being done with horses, and it is a real phenomenon where the lining of the gastrointestinal tract becomes permeable to harmful molecules and toxins that normally would not get into the bloodstream. And what the colostrum does is it helps seal up those holes, if you will, simplistically. And so I highly, highly recommend adding colostrum to any horse's diet. It's not specific to young or old or pregnant or athletes. It's not specific. It's for all horses.
Okay.
And you brought up mushrooms. And mushrooms are used medicinally, usually in Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
And I find them to be very interesting. I am not trained in Chinese medicine, so I can't speak to the mechanism of how they work. But I can tell you that by taking a preparation of several different medicinal mushrooms, and I have one that I like on my website, but there's plenty around that contain things like maitake, shiitake, chaga. What's another one? Turkey tail is another one. And some of them have some very strange names, but they do have the ability to alter the microbiome in the digestive tract to enhance the immune response. And so this would be another way to go, that if you feel that your horse is at risk and you want to protect his immune function.
Yeah, good. All right, you're making me hungry, Between the apple cider vinegar, the garlic, and the mushrooms.
Apple cider vinegar on your mushrooms. There you go.
We'll stir fry going here. No, that's all good information. Tell people how they find your website, because it really is. It is the one I always recommend when anybody has any questions about nutrition and their horse. It's just the best. It's a wealth. So tell people how to find you, and tell them about your book.
My website is GettyEquineNutrition.com. And just the new website came out a couple of months ago.
Right.
And I have a resource library where you could search for a whole variety of topics. And I have supplements that I find to be worthwhile that I offer. So I invite people to come there, listen to recordings. I have all the podcasts that I've done with you. They're on there as well. Please visit. A wealth of information. My book is called Feed Your Horse Like a Horse. And I update and expand on it all the time by writing more articles, which can be found in my resource library, as well as I have topic-focused booklets available too.
They're great. They're great. Highly recommended. And you, as somebody who holds our hands through our horses' issues, are highly recommended too. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Debbie. That's very kind of you. I feel that the more we know, the better off we are, that knowledge is empowering and helps us make good choices for our horses.
Whisper the language of the herd. Listen, you don't have to say a word.
It's time for Jamie Jennings to fetch an email from Monty Roberts' inbox and share a morsel of Monty's wisdom in a little segment we like to call Ask Monty.
Leave this world a better place than mine. The magic in the language of the herd.
Dear Monty, I've bought a traditional cob for my daughter after losing our mare to cancer last March. We went and tried her. My friend also rode her, and she ticked all the boxes, so 3 weeks later I bought her. I've now had her 5 months. She is safe on the roads. She has hunted safely, but she was very spoiled in her last home, and her life from young was rubbish. If she doesn't want to do what you ask, she will swing her head to move you. She doesn't want to walk, she'll plant to the point where we could be there in an hour. My confidence has been lost, and my daughter, who had a bad fall last June, breaking both her arms, is struggling. We're not giving in, but need expert advice. We are not loaded with cash, so struggle to take her to a training facility, but advice would be welcomed, especially by yourself. Monty's answer. Refusing to go forward is called balking, napping, or jibbing. My recommendation is to first consult with your veterinarian to rule out any physical pain the horse might have, as physical pain can be the cause of undesirable behavior. It should be noted that the problem may have been fostered through physical pain that is no longer present. Almost every balker that I'm asked to work with turns out to be a horse that resists backing up. For some reason, many horsemen seem to think that schooling a horse to back up will cause him to be a balker. Nothing could be further from the truth. I recommend you read my textbook From My Hands to Yours about these issues and employ the dually halter for your cooperation without pain. You should work to create circumstances so as to intrinsically school the horse not to resist the dually halter. When your horse resists the dually, it becomes smaller and less comfortable, and when he cooperates, the dually gives immediate reward by expanding and becoming quite comfortable. Pay particular attention to learning the use of the dually halter. Negative behavior, such as you have described with the use of his head, are key to suggest the need for the use of the dually halter. As you work with your horse, carefully remember the most important issues of using the dually. Your description of this horse's behavior would suggest that I emphasize the word instant in its use. When schooling with the dually, be firm, but being firm takes second place to being instant. Many novices will watch me work with the dually and will remark that I was too hard with the horse. In actual fact, one must be firm, but especially quick. When loading a horse, reverse is a direction that we should own in a partnership with our horses. The horse that is not trained to back up willingly may use it against us when he chooses. The horse that will back comfortably and willingly, either from the ground or from when you are riding, is far less likely to be a balker than a horse not trained to back up. For riding the balking horse, one method I have devised is to first place ordinary blinkers on the horse so that he can't see behind. This is the type of blinker that closes off the rear half of the horse's visual plane. A horse has a difficult time going into places that he cannot see. With the blinkers on, the door is open in front of the horse, and he is discouraged from moving backwards. So riding a horse with blinkers will sometimes be sufficient to discourage balking. This method, with the giddy-up rope, is also detailed in my textbook.
For more of these insights into good horsemanship, go to MontyRoberts.com and click on the words Ask Monty at the bottom of the page.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Where in the world is Monty Roberts?
Monty is looking forward to meeting some new friends, two-legged and four-legged. August 17 through 28, as we were speaking of it, Gentling Wild Horses course. Then we have September 11th through 13 in Solvang, California. We have a weekend full. We have a Horse Sense and Healing weekend, and that's for our veterans and first responders with post-traumatic stress. And we also have a CHA, Equine Facility Management certification taking place at Flag is Up Farms. And then we've got October 12th through 16, we've got a Monty special training coming up, my favorite week of the year. And then October 23 through 25, another Horse Sense and Healing, and then another one in November 13 through 15. We're ramping these up because December 4 through 6, we have our last one of the year, Horse Sense and Healing. And then long-term planning, we have February 8 through 12, another Monty special training with Portuguese translation in addition. So you can tell there's not a lot of tours going on during this COVID time. We can't get to Europe, but we have a lot going on at Flag is Up Farms.
It's got an awful lot going on. Now, I was just surfing around MontyRoberts.com. Am I right that that's a brand sparkling new website you've got going there?
Do you love it? It's beautiful. I can brag on it because I didn't do it, but yes.
Yeah,
yes,
and my favorite part is you can scroll down and see all the different courses and the descriptions. I love that. It's like, oh, look at this great stuff. So, long and short of it is, everybody, go to MontyRoberts.com, where you will find Monty's calendar as well as descriptions of all these great different courses. So you can see exactly what's going to be right for you and all of your horsey friends.
So much fun. They are. They really are. They're going on right now, too. We've got Americans taking them. Can you imagine?
Can you imagine? And you could get to do it in beautiful California, beautiful Solvang, which in addition to housing Flag is Up Farms is a lovely small town in California that has great restaurants and great character, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And you could drive there, so don't worry about a plane.
No plane required. You can drive right up there. It's a beautiful drive. When we went up, we went along the coast. It was gorgeous. So go to MontyRoberts.com, find out it all. If you want to be old school and talk to a really wonderful, well-informed human being, you can do that by calling 805-688-6288. And for details about today's show, which includes links to topics and guests, you're going to go to horsemanshipradio.com. It's episode 165. And as always, we love your feedback. And how can you give us feedback? You can go to Facebook. Go to Monty Roberts' page. You just type in there Monty Roberts. Go for the one with the blue check mark. Monty Roberts is also on other social media, Twitter and Instagram. His handle is Monty_Roberts. And once you've done all that, if you haven't gotten the app yet and you're listening via iTunes or some other podcatcher, you know it's really easy if you use the app. Because the app from Horse Radio Network, it's free, and it has all the shows on it if you want. Or you can just tap the Horsemanship Radio button. It's up to you. Just go to your app store and type in their Horse Radio Network. It works for Android and iPhones. So there you go.
That's right. Thank you for all of that. Many thanks to our sponsors, too. Finishline Fencing, they're the best. And we also have MontyRobertsUniversity.com. And be sure to visit all the other great shows on the Horse Radio Network, too, at horseradionetwork.com. Until next time, have many happy horse hours.